The year is 1492 and Christopher Columbus has just had a realization. He thought to himself, if the earth is round, then we should be able to go west and then we should find India. His plan was brilliant and he decided to set sail around the world. One problem though, he had no money. So he went to the Spanish king and queen to ask them for money. So Columbus asked, "Can I have some money?" The king said, "No, Columbus." Columbus begged, "Please." And the king, "Okay, fine." So he set sail and he finds India. Actually, though, he found America, but Columbus didn't know it yet. Columbus said, "Hey, I found India." Then Spain and Portugal proceeded to colonize an entire continent. Later they realized that this was not India, but they still colonized it, because there was a lot of that sweet, sweet gold and silver. Spanish and the Portuguese weren't the only ones who colonized this continent. All of the other nations did too. One of those nations was England. They set up colony in Jamestown and they grow tobacco there. As time passed and Britain acquired more and more colonies, and then eventually there were 13 of them. You know what would be bad for these colonies? A major global war between France and Britain. And that's exactly what happened. Britain kicked France's ass, but this victory came at a cost, and a big one. Britain was now broke as hell and in severe debt, so they tried to find the way to repay their debts. Hey, do you mind if I tax the hell out of you? Actually, we wouldn't really like that. Well, I don't care. So Britain taxed the hell out of its colonies. One such law required colonies to import sugar exclusively from Britain, and one of the other laws, called the Stamp Act, allowed any British colonist to basically stamp anything and then to charge money for it. As you can imagine, people didn't really like this, so they want to change. They asked Britain to stop ignoring them, but Britain didn't really care, so they continued taxing the hell out of them. So the colonies called the First Continental Congress. George Washington was one of the people present in the meeting. They wanted Britain to respect them, but if they don't, they're gonna revolt. So a bunch of guys disguised themselves as Native Americans and threw a bunch of tea in the ocean. Britain couldn't stand having all of their tea dumped in the ocean, so they sent their army there. And in the confusion, one of American soldiers fired the shot at the British soldier. This started the conflict known as the American Revolution. Hey, do you want to team up against Britain? Okay, sure. So with the help of France, America won the Revolutionary War. So after independence, USA created its constitution and government. They also added 10 amendments to make sure people have their freedom guaranteed. And also they invented the position of the president. And everyone agreed that it should be George Washington, the man who led America to the victory against the most powerful country at the time. And after he resigned, he told Congress to do two things: to allow the president to serve only 2 terms, and not to create political parties. One of these things they did, and the other one they did not. After the French Revolution, some short French man wanted to sell some territories he had left in America. So he did for $15 million, a lot of money. And also they started the war with Britain, but sadly it was a draw. Now United States was huge, but some people didn't think that it was large enough. Certain Andrew Jackson wanted the United States to be bigger, so he removed the natives despite Congress telling him not to. After all of these expansions, United States thought that it was destined to expand to the west. So they did, massively, kicking Mexicans and native out of the area. Also, they found a lot of gold in California. Guess what trains and factories just arrived in America? And it was a big hit. A really big hit one. This made the United States really rich and really divided. North of America thought that slavery was stupid, but South of America thought that slavery was good. And also they had a really big amount of cotton. Guess who runs for president in the new election? It is Abraham Lincoln, and he hates slavery, and he wins, of course. South is quite worried about this, so a bunch of states break away from the Union and from the Confederate States of America. This starts civil wars. South actually fought pretty good, but yeah, in the end North won anyways. And Lincoln got assassinated. Have you ever imagined what it's like to play Monopoly in real life? If you did, then let me introduce you to the Gilded Age, where only 3 people owned all of the America. That's insane. Eventually, some man named Teddy Roosevelt passed the law that prevented businesses from creating monopolies. USA is feeling a bit bored, so they decide to grab Philippines and Hawaii and Cuba. And they sadly lose Cuba. But it's okay, they got Alaska, and there is a lot of oil there, like, a lot. It's 1914, and it's time for the World War I. And USA decides to sit around and not do anything. They sell weapons to allies, and this makes them the richest country in the world. Germany then writes telegram to Mexico asking them to attack USA. America saw this telegram and it got really pissed, so they declare war, and as we know, they won. 1920s was the time of partying, fun, and of Great Depression, the biggest economic series in the history of the world. Also, America banned alcohol, but it's, kind of backfired. Germany, Italy, and Japan ally, and they tried to take over the world. And Japan really wanted to expand, even though they got almost whole of East Asia under their rule. So they bombed Pearl Harbor, which was American territory. USA was pissed about all of this, so they declared war to them as well. America was developing big sexy atomic bomb and they wanted to test it out on something, so at the end of the war they dropped it on Japan twice. After the war, USA was pretty concerned about communism, so they wanted to make sure it wouldn't spread anywhere else in the world. So they got a bunch of allies, and Soviets got a bunch of allies as well, and nuclear weapons. Back home, America had some problems because black people didn't have the same rights as the white people. So Dr. Martin Luther King wanted to change that, and he did it. USA developed allergic reactions to communism, so when wars in Korea and Vietnam broke out, they were quick to aid not communist side. But in Vietnam, America was not doing so good, and Richard Nixon had to bring the troops back home to America. And also Watergate ruined his career. Ronald Reagan pulled America away from the gold standard and made inflation go to the absolute moon. But USA will get richer and more powerful, and their enemies, the Soviet Union, collapsed. So that was a relief. In 2001, some planes flew into some towers, well known as 9/11, and America was pretty pissed about this, so they went to war with Iraq over this. So what did we get after all of this struggle? Damn, we got Twitter and the internet!